Good afternoon, my name is May Sanchez, and today I'm going to be doing a deep dive into a law that has both present day and historical significance to the business landscape as a whole. So I invite you to come along with me and hopefully learn something new and create your own opinion regarding the act we're going to be talking about today, which is the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. So we're going to navigate through this intricate legal landscape, talk about the overview of this act as a whole, with the origin of it, the purpose of this act and where this came from in the first place, the relevant and applicable legal framework that comes along with the Sherman Act, dissenting arguments, and then furthermore, I will be sharing my own personal opinion on the Sherman Act and the importance that I feel it has on today's legal landscape and environment. Again, I invite you to continue with me as I dive into the Sherman Act as a whole. To commence, we're going to kind of start by unfolding the historical layers of this legislation, tracing back to its origin and purpose. Before we delve into the complexities of this issue as a whole, we need to acknowledge that although it can maybe be seen as a historical artifact as it was enacted in 1890, it still has very applicable implications to today's legal and business environment. So, we enacted this Sherman Antitrust Act in 1890. This legislation marked a significant turning point as the U.S. Congress's first measure to prohibit trusts. So kind of a cornerstone of Congress engaging in the business world and putting their foot in on issues as far as fair trade. It bears the name of Senator John Sherman of Ohio, a man of considerable influence as the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee and the Secretary of Treasury under President Hayes, as found in the National Archives of the U.S. government. So, the impetus behind the Sherman Antitrust Act in the first place was to counteract the monopolistic influence of trusts. So as I spoke about before, those had become particularly dominant in major industries, and it was destroying competition. So no one else had the ability or the freedom to enter this space based on the monopolistic environment that it was already in. So a poignant example is the formation of the Standard Oil Trust in 1882, which functioned as a monopoly with trustees overseeing its entire operation. So to counteract this dominance, the act authorized the federal government to dissolve trusts and declared any combination and restraint of trade or commerce illegal. So as we transition now into the legal industries, we need to consider that the Sherman Antitrust Act was sort of a legal cornerstone in the U.S. So codified in 15 U.S.C. 138, as found in the government archives as well, this legislation served as kind of a barrier wall against any anti-competitive practices. So sections 1 and 2 kind of emerged as cardinal tenets, prescribing any inclination towards monopolization. So this was truly a cornerstone and a change in the U.S. government's engagement in this sort of space. So now that we've talked about the beginning of the legal framework, after the Sherman Act was enacted in 1890, the Clayton Act in 1914 amended the Sherman Act, and this was to elevate the act of monopolization to the status of felony. So not only is monopolization now not allowed, as stated by the Sherman Act, it's also now the status of a felony. So if any businesses are caught engaging in monopolistic activities, they can be charged with a felony. So as we're kind of navigating through the evolution of this act, we witness its adept alignment with the goals of antitrust laws. So 7 core principles emerge, and these condemn all forms of anti-competitive conduct. However, it is crucial to delve into dissenting arguments against the imposition of such regulations. Of particular note is the concept of trusts, where stockholders transfer their shares to trustees, a practice that underscores the ongoing significance of this legislation. Now that we've talked about the past tense framework that created this Antitrust Act in the first place, now we can kind of take a look at the contemporary significance in our today's business atmosphere and environment. And I, through my research, have found that the Sherman Act serves as a sort of silent guardian of fair business practices. That's what I've kind of been calling this whole presentation, where this competition and this rat race is kind of the lifeblood of these enterprises. This legislation really ensures these monopolistic endeavors are not taking over and allowing and fostering an environment conducive to fair trade and thriving businesses. Personally, I feel that it's our collective responsibility to lend unequivocal support to a law that safeguards fair competition, as freedom and equity in this country is something that we hold to a very high standard. I feel that it's really important to lend, and it just overall contributes to a competitive business environment that ensures growth and change and allows for new endeavors of growing businesses. In conclusion, the Sherman Antitrust Act emerges not merely as a historical artifact, but as a living testament to the principles of fair competition as I've outlined in this presentation. As we bring this discourse and conversation to a close, I implore you to reflect upon this presentation and form your own opinion on the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 and kind of think about the implications that it's had on your life. And as always, in this business space, I really think it's important to always stay informed, stay engaged, and I look forward to our continued exploration of these matters. Thank you so much.